Good morning. As he mentioned, my name is Colonel Andy Hall, and I am a professor at the United States Military Academy. And at the United States Military Academy is where we have our Army Cyber Institute. The Army Cyber Institute is, of course, because we're U.S., it's U.S. Army Cyber Institute, but we don't put the U.S. in front of it. But we do have a slight difference in what we do at the academies between the different services. And one of the things that's unique about the Army is that our U.S. Army, we don't have a graduate school, whereas our Naval and Air Force brothers and sisters, they have a graduate school. So like I got an opportunity to go to the Naval Postgraduate School, but we don't have such a graduate school for the Army. And so we have a research role at West Point that might be a little bit different than some of the other our other service academies, because they have a graduate school. And so what we built at West Point was a place for us to think about cyber. And if you think about it, it is very similar to what the Estonians did, or what NATO did here with the CCD-COE, was to have a group that you could point to that would do some of the thinking for cyber. So at the beginning of the time of the 2010s, we had General Keith Alexander, and General Rhett Hernandez, who were the commander of our cyber command and the commander of Army Cyber, got together and were trying to think of who would do the thinking about problems in the cyber domain for the Army. And so they came up with the notion that they would build an Army Cyber Institute at West Point. And so we built our institute around a multidisciplinary approach, where we have a group of research scientists that are really in a broad array of different topics. We have people that teach in the English department as well as the history department, all the way across to what you would expect from a cyber group teaching in mathematics and computer science. And so by being all together, we get those serendipitous coffee call, bump into type discussions going on, where you get a chance to have the people that we have that focus in policy getting a chance to talk with our computer scientists, which we especially like. The other thing that we kind of have unique in the Army Cyber Institute is that we've got all of the specialties of information operations represented. And so I have some psychological operations officers with me, information operations officers, and electronic warfare officers, all working together with us along with our cyber officers to try to figure out some of the questions about the working in this new information operations domain. The Army cyber community has taken responsibility for electronic warfare this year, and so the electronic warfare planning and headquarters and the training of our troops is all moving to Fort Gordon. And the next thing that we expect to see happening is having the proponency for information operations also come to Fort Gordon. And so the role of the Army Cyber Institute at West Point is to be able to provide a think tank, to provide a group of officers and civilians that will think about the problems that we believe are essential to the Army going forward. And so as we're really looking at what we're going forward, we're worried about both what you think of as more strategic cyber, where the kind of things we all think about going on at Fort Meade, or when people hear about the NSA, or when you read books about cyber. But we're also very worried about the electronic warfare and the cyber component, similar to what we had in the one keynote yesterday, where we're looking at the SEMA, or the cyber electronic combination at the tactical levels. And so we're very concerned about how the Army is actually going to get a chance to implement the cyber. And one of the things that we saw in some of the simulations is we don't exactly know what the benefits are for a lot of our communications assets. We've done a lot of simulation work over time, where you take an old weapon system like the M47 Dragon, which is supposed to blow up Soviet tanks, and you say you're going to improve it and you're going to make it into a javelin, and then you change the probability hit, probability kill, and you run more simulations, and you say, okay, what's the benefit of us really working on this new javelin as opposed to this Dragon? But we've had a hard time when we had our old radios, and then we went to the SINGARs, and then you keep going generations of radios. We've had a hard time modeling in simulation exactly what's the benefit, because so many of these simulations that we use, you got a bunch of soldiers doing the puck work, or you've got the teammates that are running all of the Janus models that we used, and so the communications doesn't get properly modeled. And so one of the things that we're working this next year with our simulations officers is trying to figure out if there's a way we can put a value on what the cyber component is on the battlefield. Because as you heard what General Neller said, if we have to go backwards, you also want to know if we did have to go back to maps and stickies, how far backwards would we actually go? How much capability would we actually lose? Most of the soldiers that have served in our Army in the multiple deployments to Iraq are used to having the Blue Force tracker, where they have constant information on where all their soldiers are. And how would it change the way that we're fighting or our tempo if we no longer had access to any of that information, or if we really didn't believe that it was accurate? I remember in the very early days of our UAVs, when we were out at the National Training Center, we would fly a UAV down a valley and give information to a commander that said that although they were convinced that there was going to be enemy in that valley, that there was no enemy in that valley, and they would not believe it. They didn't trust this newfangled UAV technology. Well, now with everyone's being dependent, we're not quite sure what would happen if we went back the other way. And so within the simulation group, we're really trying to do that value of cyber, but also to take a look at what we can do to how to bring cyber and other non-lethal effects into what we're doing with regard to simulation. And so we're really looking at, I guess you would call it, the cost of isolation. We've got the concept of multi-domain battle is one where you're trying to prevent people from being isolated, and so really figure out what that isolation is. So we really have two main areas that we work on, which are research and partnerships. And within the research arena, we've got the broad group of academics. So we do quite a bit of interesting work, from the law to policy to working on networks. But with the other thing we're trying to do with partnerships is to get relationships with the organizations that are going to be our teammates if we actually had to defend in the time of crisis. And so we've got this Jack Voltaic series of exercise. This slide highlights work that we did with New York City, where we worked with all of our first responders and Verizon, AT&T, Con Edison, and ran a tabletop and a live fire exercise to get a chance to explore with them what would happen if New York City was attacked. And we found a lot of interesting lessons coming out of this, and decided to take it to the next level, and we'll be doing another one with Houston this summer. But we're trying to leverage our partnerships by getting an opportunity to work with those that own the terrain, really, that we'll have to fight on. So we end up working partnerships for a couple of reasons. One is to get this access to the resources that are going to be defended, and the other one really is to make a bigger network. So we have a network of friends, researchers, so that we can do work together. So because none of us can afford to be spending duplicative effort. I mean, you find somebody that's doing really good work, it's better to team up with them than to try to redo it yourself. Okay, and so in that, with regard to creating a community, or really what we're trying to do both at the Army Cyber Institute as well as the CCD-COE, where it's about having an opportunity to have a community. So we have created a journal, an academic journal. We've had 7 issues, and some of you have picked a copy of the journal up from our booth here during this conference. But we wanted to have something for academics to publish in and something to push their graduate students towards, because we all know that the key of the realm is to get publications, and so we figured we needed to create a journal. So we've got the journal into JSTOR, so it's part of the National Security collection on JSTOR, so you can go in through your local library and take a look at the last 7 issues, but also gives us an opportunity to get peer review, and that's one of the things that in our community is important, is to be able to have a respected peer review to say which of the articles are that much better. And so we're pretty excited about continuing to go forward with the journal, and it gives us a chance to highlight several different kinds of articles. We've got, as you see in this picture, we've got General Nakasone back when he was the commander of Army Cyber, and we gave him an opportunity to write about multi-domain battle. And so when we're working with our senior leaders, we're not really subjecting them to peer review so much as trying to get the rest of us an opportunity to hear their thoughts. Because those that are working with senior leaders in industry, they get to hear the thoughts of their leaders, but we're really trying to expand it so that we get an opportunity for the community to hear the senior leaders. So we do a industry and senior leader commentary, followed by a group where we do peer-reviewed research articles, and then we actually do some book reviews as well, which is something that we've had a chance to get our cadets to write some book reviews, and also to highlight some of the things that are going on in the community. And on that book review, when we often point back to Palo Alto Network's Cyber Canon project, which is a great opportunity to really look at a host of books that are very important to our field. Okay, I think that's about what I wanted to say. Professor Ed Stielbask has been here with me all week, and I guess some people say that we're not going to have to worry about robots, but I think that we all can watch Star Wars and know that we might have to make the decisions between robots and clones, but we all know that security will be very important no matter what decision we make. So thank you very much for listening.